If you're on AT&T, you've got a lot of choices between smartphones. How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and you may love iOS, you may love Android, maybe you like Windows Phone. You've got some nice choices on AT&T. What do we do when all those come into the PhoneDog offices and we're trying to help you make a decision? We do a dogfight. That's what. I've got two devices in my hands right now, the Motorola Atrix HD and the Nokia Lumia 900, both nice devices. This is kind of a mid-range, high-end device with a mid-range price, and it's packing some awesome specs. A 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU, an 8-megapixel camera, and a durable build that looks a lot like the Razr Max on Verizon. Then you have the Nokia Lumia 900, a flagship Windows phone, packing a decent processor, a 4.3-inch display, an 8-megapixel camera, a bunch of colors, and it recently dropped to $49.99 on contracts. You got one for $100, one for $50, but very different specs and very different operating systems. Which one is the best? We're going to find out in the dogfight, but before we kick into it, some love to Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with phones like this for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working, and they'll help you set up your email, your web, your settings, your contacts, all that stuff. So when you walk out the door, you can go to dinner, you can go hang out at the club, whatever it is you crazy kids do these days, and you don't have to worry about setting up your phone thanks to Best Buy Mobile. Atrix HD, Lumia 900, which one is it? Let's kick off the dogfight, and it starts right now. So let's say you walk into the AT&T store and you know for a fact you don't want the Samsung Galaxy S3. You just don't want to spend $200, or at least right now you don't want the HTC One X either, although rumors are it's dropping to $99 at the end of the weekend. That said, you're like, I got $100, maybe $50. Actually, I should have said that backwards. $50 or $100. It's Friday. Give me some credit here. $50 or $100, I'm walking in like, but I want a good smartphone. I want something that I know will last for 2 years. Well, gone are the days where you have to worry about getting a mid-range device at $50. There's some pretty awesome, what I would consider to be high-end devices in the $50 to $100 price range. Two of those are right here. Here's the Motorola Atrix HD. This is the newest iteration in the Atrix line of devices. So we have the Atrix 2, and now we have the Atrix HD. You'll notice the Kevlar on the back, the Gorilla Glass in the front. This thing resembles the Motorola Droid Razr on Verizon. So if you like the durability of that device, you were like, man, I just like AT&T, or I'm in a contract, or whatever the case may be, and you wanted to stick with AT&T, well, the Atrix HD is going to be the device for you. It's available, like I said, for $99.99. You'll notice the volume rocker on this side. You got your micro USB charging port, and then HDMI port up top. Volume rocker, like I said, power button. You got a little flap here, which houses your micro SD card slot and your micro SIM card slot, and then you've got a 3.5mm headphone jack up top as well. So design-wise, looks a lot like the Droid Razr and the Droid Razr Max. That said, it's the first Motorola device to run Android 4.0 out of the gate. If you remember, the Razr and the Razr Max have been upgraded to Android 4.0, but this is the first one to launch with it. And as a result, like anything Motorola, and you remember this from when they were pumping out devices, every Motorola device has little differences. Like the UI is not the same. It's not like Sense 4 or like TouchWiz, where it's kind of the same across the board. It is a little bit different depending on which Motorola device you're using. So we'll talk about that more in just a second. But 8-megapixel camera on the back, 1,780 milliamp hour non-removable battery. Really ugly AT&T logo right down here at the bottom. I don't know why they didn't. It's not the logo that I have a problem with. I just don't understand why they didn't write AT&T as well. Perhaps they thought it might be like an off-center thing. I don't know. Have to ask them at some point. Then you have the Nokia Lumia 900, a flagship Windows Phone device over here. Coming soon, it's going to get Windows Phone 7.8, which is the next upgrade to the platform. But right now, Windows Phone 7.5, also known as Mango. It's packing a 1.4 gigahertz single-core processor, a 4.3-inch Super AMOLED display with Nokia's ClearBlack technology. You've got an 8-megapixel camera on the back with 720p HD video recording, and then you've got a front-facing camera as well. Now, polycarbonate shell here, and it is, non-removable battery in this device as well, but you'll see the polycarbonate shell available in pink, blue, white, and black. So you get a couple of different color choices. The white is actually a pretty glossy white, so the texture is a little bit different. But polycarbonate shell with painting all the way through. So you'll notice I nicked the device on like day 4 when I was carrying it as part of a 30-day challenge. And even though it's nicked, you'll notice it stays blue all the way throughout. On this side, you got camera button, power button, volume rocker up top. You've got your SIM card slot, which is a micro SIM card, by the way, as is this. Micro USB charging port, 3.5mm headphone jack, and then nothing over on this side. So 4.3 inches here, 4.5 inches, and then you got a notification as well, apparently, according to something that just lit up on my desk. I'm not sure which one that was. I think it was Galaxy Note, but more on that at a later date, friends. So obviously Android 4.0 over here with Motorola's UI. Nokia device over here with Windows Phone pre-installed, and of course Windows Phone's kind of consistent across the board. Out of the gate, you're going to notice AT&T applications on both of these devices. You get code scanner over here. Let me move that out of the light, at least kind of where you can, it's not glaring off the display. Amazon Kindle, AT&T code scanner, AT&T Navigator, ready to go, smart Wi-Fi. You got over here My AT&T Movies, Messages. You got Quick Light, Real Racing 2, Quick Office. You got Speed Test, which is obviously something I've installed, Urban Spoon, which I installed as well, and then YP Mobile, which comes pre-installed. Now this is the closest, at least in terms of manufacturer installed skins, it's the closest I've seen to stock Android. You'll notice the widgets are right up here as well, and you scroll right into the widgets, much like you do with stock Android 4.0 and stock Android 4.1, also known as Jelly Bean. You'll also notice that a lot of similarities up here in the notifications bar. Very similar look and feel here to stock Android. So they kind of, it's funny because Motorola used to be the one that was known as like the overly bloaty user interface. Remember Moto Blur? Nobody liked Moto Blur except for maybe like 4 people. I'm just making that number up. I'm pulling it out of a hat. But now it's funny because, you know, obviously with the purchase of Motorola by Google, you can really see the fact that the UI is kind of tapering off, and I imagine it'll continue to do so as time goes on. Then you have the Lumia 900 over here, like I said, Windows Phone 7.5, code scanner, My Wireless, Navigator, radio, UVerse Mobile, all pre-installed, ESPN, and then you get Nokia Drive as well, Nokia Maps. We can talk a little bit more about that towards the later part of this video, early part of part 2. You get Tango video calls. You get some nice stuff out of the gate on the Lumia as a result of it being a Microsoft operating system. You get Microsoft Office pre-installed, you get Xbox Live pre-installed, and then of course on the AT&T side you get YP Mobile. Now fortunately all the AT&T stuff, as you can see here, press and hold and you can easily uninstall it. So if you don't want code scanner, you can get rid of code scanner. But what I like, two very different user interfaces over here. This is called Metro UI because it resembles Metro tiles. Go into the subway, you see all those little tiles, that's what this is supposed to look like. And while it offers some personalization to an extent, it's not quite the point of Android. You look at like an Android on a customization scale, I rate it depending on the user interface anywhere from like a 6 to 9.5 or even a 10 if you're rooting the device. And then over here, I'd say you get about a 3, a solid 3 to 4 on Windows Phone. So if you like personalization and customization, it's very important to you, then obviously the Android device is going to be the way to go. But again, like I said, stock Android look and feel here. You've got physical, or on-screen buttons rather, down here at the bottom. Now, unlike stock Android, when you go into the YouTube player, you do stuff where you'd think the buttons would go away or at least minimize themselves. They don't. So even in YouTube, even in the browser, those buttons are there at all times, so far as I can tell at least. Both of these devices are LTE devices as well, so you can take advantage of AT&T's 4G LTE. So without further ado, let's take a look here at the user interfaces. Obviously, personalization to be had across both of these devices, and I'm going to scroll in here, go into settings here, display, and then you can see, of course, you've got wallpaper capabilities, but then you have widgets as well over here. That's something you don't have on Windows Phone. What you do get on Windows Phone, the ability to change the color of the tiles, and you're going to notice these are live tiles, so you'll watch them dynamically change. You'll see the contacts flip in and out. If I have a missed call, it pops up beside the phone icon. If I have a missed message, it pops up beside the message icon. And I can scroll down and kind of see, for example, Marketplace, I have 3 updates. And then when I download applications, ESPN, you'll see these are automatic, these are live updating tiles. So the goal is to kind of bring all your information in an easy way to the desktop, and Windows Phone does a relatively good job of that. That said, for some, it's still going to come across as too basic, but for those that do like it, this is a beautiful device in a beautiful shell. So we can come down here. I want to show you some of these personalization choices outside of the wallpaper. Now, unfortunately, this kind of reminds me of the initial iPhone days because you notice there's no wallpaper behind any of this stuff. It's just a black screen. The only time you ever see the wallpaper is when you're at the actual lock screen. When you scroll up, you'll see obviously I have it set to cupcakes because who doesn't like cupcakes? I mean, come on. Cupcakes are awesome, but you can change the theme. I can change it to Nokia Blue, for example. I can change the background to light if I want to. So I have some options, but obviously because this is an AMOLED display, I'd highly recommend not changing it around because white does, because of the lighter color, it does consume more battery. But just for the sake of the video, we're going to keep it on white. So you can see another frustration I have with Windows Phone, the signal strength indicator bar, unless you're in the actual call area, it doesn't stay at the top. And even when you're in the call area, LTE, you'll see it disappear in just a second. And that's all you get, the time. And then the signal strength. There may be a time I'd like to check data. I'd like to know if I'm in an LTE coverage area or an HSPA Plus coverage area. Unfortunately, I can't do that without having to push, and hold it down just like that and keep doing that every single time I want to see it. So I hope they fix that in a future version where I can kind of play around with that. Also, this is coming soon to Windows Phone 7.8 with the ability to customize the size of these tiles to an extent. So hopefully we'll get some more hands-on time with that in the coming months. But you can see the widgets over here out of the gate, some Motorola stuff, some stock Google stuff. Drive Smart is a really cool application. I'm kind of jumping across the board here. But I can say touch to setup, for example, and forgive me for swallowing so much, my throat's really dry. And then we can do an existing rule where when I'm in the car, I can set Drive Smart and turn it on, and whenever I get a phone call, it'll auto-direct to voicemail, or I get a text message, it can auto-respond and say, hey, I'm driving, call or text me back at a later date. So that's pretty cool. But outside of widgets, outside of the wallpaper, you get a lot of customization stuff over here on Android. Now, like I said, AT&T stuff, I believe it's uninstallable on this device. Let me take a look just to be on the safe side. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Let me see. And AT&T messages, let's say uninstall it. Let's just take a look here to make sure. And again, you can, from the font scheme to the way the menus are structured, you can clearly tell that there are some great influences of stock Android here. Let's take a look at messaging on both of these devices. We'll load this up. Entry last month is 1. Oh my gosh, I won a Target gift card. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Send me now, now, now. And that's what it looks like when you send a text message, and obviously you can see different colors of blue. And again, portrait to landscape transitions, absolutely beautiful and very fluid in Windows Phone. No lag whatsoever. So if lag is something that bothers you, you're not going to have an issue over on Windows Phone. Over here, Motorola's keyboard pre-installed, a little bit different from the Droid Razr Max, the gingerbread versions, I should say, the Droid Razr and the Droid Razr Max. So we'll save Quick Run Fox is happy. It is Friday. Friday, Friday. And of course, because it's a 4.5-inch display, portrait to landscape transitions relatively fast, but you've got a nice large display to type on that you should have no issues with whatsoever. Back, home, and recent applications down here at the bottom I can easily scroll out of. Over here, press and hold the back button, that's right. And I can scroll back and forth through my recently used applications like messaging, and I can pick right up where I left off.